Welcome back to Krusty Car News, and have we got some juicy content today? You won't believe it. The one at the end will tell you all about how our rights are getting crushed, and the prices as well for new Toyotas is outlandish. Let's get right into it, because Toyota in fact is getting desperate, and they plan to shut down many models. Terrible news for Honda. What's going on over there? Third story, with all of the havoc going on at Stellantis, could it be true that they're going to dump Dodge, Ram, Chrysler, and Jeep? The fourth story is all about the car market. What's going on? Why is the car market flailing? And what's going to happen next? And I promised you the fifth story would be all about infringing on our rights. Yes, there's been some laws just passed, pushed out that cars by a certain year will have kill switches that they'll be able to shut down your vehicle even while you drive. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. The first story is all about Toyota. We've seen declining sales in the last 3 consecutive quarters, means that Toyota is in fact getting desperate.
Is now facing criticism that it's not moving fast enough to reduce carbon emissions.
Reporting on the fact that Toyota sales have fallen now for, I believe, 7 straight months.
Quality control issues with bad transmissions. Thousands of recalls to rectify blown engines. And we've seen inventory rise in recent months due to poor sales of a lot of their trucks, their full-size trucks, Tacomas, as well as the Tundras. We haven't seen inventory like this piling up on the lots for quite some time. They're truly getting desperate. Obviously, with sales down, they're down about 20%, and many of their models are not selling. Unfortunately, this transformation into EV market has them hanging on the edge. One of the latest recalls to impact Toyota, which is increasing the desperation by the brand, is trying to salvage a little damage control and reputation, is their new Tacoma, and the 8-speed automatic transmission is locking up, spitting out check engine lights, and they're having to rebuild and send out brand new transmissions. And in the US, the sales have declined in September, down about 20.3%, or about a 9.9% daily savings conversion rate. We're also seeing about 162,000 units sold, clearly a significant drop from the month before. Yes, a lot of dealers are still adding market adjustment fees on the old outgoing 4Runner just because of its tried and true reputation for reliability. They've given up on pure EV. The infrastructure's not there, and they've said, but look, we have to up our ante on the electric vehicle. What is that? Hybrid. And their sales have seen a drastic increase, 38% on a daily sales rate, and about a 22% sales rate increase over in September. Meaning that Toyota has full plans to forge ahead with hybrid vehicles and all but fully eliminate all of their internal combustion solo vehicles in the very near future. Sure, well, Toyota's got the hybrid vehicles covered, EVs are slow on the uptake, and as well, we're all gonna lose those tried and true internal combustion Toyotas that we always love. The second story is all about Honda and some of the worst news lately. With as many as 1.7 million units recently recalled for a whole plethora of bad steering issues, we're also talking about Consumers Reports dropping the rankings of reliability from Honda in the last several years and losing out to brands like BMW. And we're also talking about the J35 V6 engines, one of their staples, has had some major recalls for catastrophic failures, increased reliability challenges as soon as they adopted the continuously variable transmission, and we can't forget about talking about that new 1.5 liter Turbo 4 that it has a whole pile of oil and fuel dilution issues. It begs the question, where is Honda's reliability, and how is that going to impact the brand as a whole? Reliability hasn't been Honda's best friend. What's going on? Steering is the problem. Honda mentions that there's been about 10,328 claims since 2021 impacted by this exact steering related issue. Whereas Honda has become more innovative with continuously variable transmissions, direct injection, turbocharging, and that has seemed to compromise some of Honda's reliability. And sadly, a lot of owners are now looking for other alternatives, where once they decided, you know what, I'm going to go for a Honda, now they've got to think twice. Do I buy a Honda? Do I buy a Toyota? They're both going through some major problems. Now, they have been traditionally very reliable, but if it's not the Takata airbags, it's bad CVT transmissions. If it's not the transmissions, it's the oil and fuel dilution issues, or the 3.5 liter V6 problems, or premature corrosion around the fuel tanks on some of their models. Honda has been not short of their own list of challenges, and while no brand is perfect, and Toyota is a classic example of that, and in my opinion, Honda is still more reliable than going with a product like GM or Ford's, the fact remains is with more and more problems that we're seeing with Honda and some of the manufacturing and some of the severity of the recalls, leaves a lot of customers to be seriously concerned. Let's hope Honda can get these recalls taken care of and we don't see any more bad ones. The third story is Stellantis allegedly may be unloading Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Chrysler because of poor sales, over prices, and people are not interested in the brand. Could they be bankrupt in 2 short years? I mean, we look at Carlos Tavares and his contract is expired in 2026 when he's handing over the reins to the next governing CEO. Unfortunately, what we've seen is increased prices in all of their arsenal. Where there's Jeeps, they overshot drastically what the expectation of the consumer is. Now buyers just can't afford them. Full-size pickup trucks, the Ram, as they transition from the V8s and V6 engines now into a twin-turbo straight 6 called the Hurricane, people are showing less interest in that. All in the midst of this time, this transition to the EV market, where the EU Union, every European manufacturer, Stellantis is trying to get ahead of that. They promised to create 14 new models as of 2026. With day supply rising at an alarming rate, the brands are not selling. We heard last week about the doghouse, where they're looking deep down at the financial end of the game, where they're possibly looking at cutting costs on POs, trimming down the expenditures, and non-essentials are going bye-bye. Pull up the data online and you're finding that the sales are not there. Bankruptcy is almost an inevitability. They're actually looking and contemplating that nothing's off the table, and there's a strong possibility that they may in fact start parting ways with some of the American products. You know, the Ram, the Jeeps, the Chrysler, which only currently has a minivan in the Chrysler portfolio. Nobody wants it. It's overpriced and it's unreliable, allegedly, according to a lot of customers and consumers. Even Dodge, they've clearly isolated a lot of their buyers with vehicles like the Challenger and the Charger, which have pretty much eliminated the V8 engine, which was the heart and soul of those vehicles, are now going pure EV. Stellantis, in all of their infinite wisdom, thought they had this foresight to get ahead of their competition with transitioning into electric vehicles much faster than everybody else, and tried to beat the shortcoming market back in 2022 by overproducing a number of vehicles and highly jacking prices. The flip side is that all backfired. People are on to what these overprices were. I mean, inflation was big. Inflation over the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen 3 or 4% year over year in core inflation, and yet Stellantis has decided to electively drop on a natural inflationary adjustment to the price of their vehicles closer to the 30-35% year over year, drastically outrunning the actual cost of inflation, which is a literal slap in the face of many customers. So if Stellantis dumps those brands, who's going to buy them? The fourth story is the car market has literally collapsed. And while I'm over here on a Range Rover, Land Rover yard, obviously these vehicles are piling up at an alarming rate. They're not selling. Email after email after email, and they're hounding their clientele to try to buy these vehicles because a lot of these vehicles are just building up on inventory and not selling. Now we're starting to see some brand new inventory sitting back and people rejecting what they had ordered because they realize the cost of living crisis is taking a toll and they can't afford to make the payments on that. So 6 months later, 4 months later, after the vehicle actually shows up, they decide, uh-oh. And this is real. People are struggling right now. Even with the 50 basis points the Fed's dumped off the top, it's still not enough. And people see the writing on the wall after getting signed up for a loan of 84 months. The reality is people understand now that's way beyond what I can actually afford or want to afford. Doesn't matter if you're talking new, used cars, they are not selling. Yeah, well, there's pockets of success. The mass majority of the market has flipped upside down. But now this transformation into the EV market means that these manufacturers can't cut their prices too much without going underwater. We've also seen some of the most very popular models that you couldn't get for the last 2 years. Now they're starting to creep in and they're starting to sit on the car lots. But what's even more puzzling is they're not selling. Now that they're on the lot, slightly used, and people are not buying them because they can't afford it. Obviously, some of the finance rates are a little higher on used vehicles, so it just makes it out of the reach for a lot of people, but people don't want them. Also, we're looking at vehicles like Mercedes and even BMW. Now, sales are down in this last quarter, and we're starting to see the slump. The German manufacturers are struggling making sales, and even Volkswagen is in a world of hurt, trying to recoup $11 billion. They're looking at closing down plants, laying off workers. But a year ago, you couldn't even find a vehicle like this on the used lot. These vehicles were so highly sought after. These Fords, as you're looking right here, clearly we have a Raptor version of this, and it's a very nicely equipped. Obviously it has the big fender flares and the steel step guards there and all the paint and the graphics. Raptor right there. You get the big wheel on the back. It is a very attractive looking full-size, mid-size SUV, obviously for off-roading. Has all of the logos and everything on it. You could not find these anywhere on any lot. They were all outsold, oversold, and overcommitted, and you couldn't get them. And now I'm seeing them right there. Hondas, you're seeing extra vehicles like this, the high quality, low mileage vehicles like this, you would never see on used car lots. There you go. You're also seeing vehicles like this brand new Toyota Sienna, or slightly used Sienna, and it's a hybrid. So everybody knows Toyota's very low inventory levels last 2 or 3 years, but here we go, a low mileage, high quality, unbattered, unbanged up version that's dry and hasn't been underwater, and yet it's been sitting on this lot for the last month. But this one here is $125,540. What? Porsche 911 territory? BMW M5 territory? Corvette Z06 territory? What's going on with these vehicles and the prices? But another big problem that they're about to see, a lot of these manufacturers that are going to continue hampering the sales of vehicles. Doesn't matter, whether it's a Ford or Toyota. What's going to be a problem with these longer loan rates is that less and less people are going to qualify for these loan terms because the interest rising in repossessions, not just subprime borrowers, but even prime borrowers are now starting to rise. We're seeing the numbers increase where people are now, who normally could afford to buy these vehicles, are now starting to default. I've never seen car prices at such high levels as we see today. Where does this madness end? The fifth story is all about a new law that's mandating kill switches for brand new vehicles coming up in 2026. Why are they doing this? Yes, in fact, a new kill switch to be installed in every single 2026 and newer vehicle. A lot of it was justified by law enforcement and government officials by the sake that they're trying to minimize drunk drivers. Drunk drivers were to be monitored passively by watching their eyes, the vehicle's movement, the response of the driver, excess speeding, and all of the sensors on board of these vehicles were to be monitored and identified for drunk drivers. Whether it's the government, whether it's law enforcement, insurance companies. And we all know insurance companies aren't looking for too many reasons to crank up your rates, as we've seen in recent years. This new law snuck in under a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and is designed to actually lock out your vehicle in the event of not agreeing to the type of driving behavior that you are participating in. How far is too far, where Big Brother, the government, insurance companies, law enforcement have above you and your personal rights? We already see in the United Kingdom where drivers found excessively speeding were to be triggered. They get all these active alarms leading up to that point, and after 3 strikes, you're out. You lose your license indefinitely. Now, under Section 224-220, under Advanced Impaired Driving Technology, subsection 1 states that alcohol-impaired driving fatalities represent approximately 1/3 of all highway fatalities in the United States each year. Subsection 3 also indicates the estimated economic cost for alcohol-impaired driving in 2010 was approximately $44 billion. Subsection 4 indicates, according to the Insurance Institutes of Highway Safety, advanced drunk and impaired driving prevention technology can prevent more than 9,400 alcohol-impaired driving fatalities annually. And subsection 5 states, to ensure the prevention of alcohol-impaired driving fatalities, advanced drunk and impaired driving prevention technology must be standard equipment in all new passenger vehicles. The technology can passively monitor the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether the driver may be impaired and prevent or limit motor vehicle operation if an impairment is detected. Law enforcement may see you at your doors and say, hey, we saw you driving like this. Government officials and even the IRS may have their fingers in this pie as well. Then one begs the question, how reliable are these systems? If it's using all these sensors to detect your driving behavior, whether you're capable of driving. I mean, we talk about hackers that have the ability to possibly get in there, like CDK, make adjustments. You could be driving down the highway doing 80 miles per hour, and all of a sudden somebody shuts off your vehicle. What's going to happen? Are you going to be put into a very dangerous situation? We also notice that because there's an algorithm, there's software, and we know software and computers have glitches. We know sensors have have glitches. Look at the modern day vehicles with all the sensors, and they fail regularly. As you go down, spend your hard-earned dollars on these vehicles, which are becoming almost cost prohibitive to buy in the first place, and many buyers are finding it very difficult to even afford new vehicles these days. Here we have manufacturers that will be forced and mandated to install very expensive new technology into these vehicles, thus adding another $1,000 to $5,000 to the price of this vehicle as a baseline. So the benefits and the drawbacks become very, very clear. So it's a controversial topic. While it infringes on our rights, the flip side is it helps protect those people from drunk drivers. I told you this would be a good week, and as well, you're definitely going to want to see some of those. Those are some other videos I've made with some great car news. You might have missed them. You want to catch up on those. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.